Call to order the Town Commission Budget Public Hearing, meeting of September the 7th. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Mayor Tompeck,
Here.
Vice Mayor Kurzman,
Yes.
Commissioner Campo,
Here.
Commissioner Fender,
Here.
Commissioner Mayfield.
Here.
Okay, we have two public comments on non-agenda items. The first one is Phil Weber.
Good evening, everyone. I've got some pictures that I think April's going to bring up for you. Are they going to show up here?
Actually, it's going to be over on that side, the PowerPoint that I sent you.
This one?
There we go.
Is that it?
That's it. So I have a couple of remarks about Mandalay Road and cleanup items left over from the road project. So here's a shot of the little structure there when you enter our road. There's a light bulb on either side. Kind of nice to have that lit up at night. That line got cut when they did all the business, and it never got repaired. I don't know, 6 or 8 months ago, there was two guys there, and they said, yeah, we're here to fix this. We're going to figure it out. So we talked and said, great. And then nothing ever happened. So there's that. Next. Okay, the street light that's right across the street from it seems to have a mind of its own. I think it should be on sunset to sunrise, given the notice we've got, about the crime that happens around here every now and then. So there's a light on either end of the street. I don't know what the one on the other end is doing, but I know that one kind of does what it wants to. Anyway, I think it should be on all the time. Next. Okay. When you pull up to the end of Mandalay and you've got South Sewalls Point Road in front of you and you're going to make a left or right turn, that's what we used to look at. Next slide. That's what we look at now. Yeah, how about we move that 30 feet to the right? It's just awful, not up to Sewalls Point standards. There's a cement pad in front of it that apparently serves no purpose. All those posts on the electrical stuff go right into the dirt, not associated with that concrete. I don't know what that concrete's there for, but another eyesore. So I'd like for you to take a look at getting that thing out of the way and getting that area back up to Sewalls Point standards. Next slide. Okay, at the other end of Mandalay, there's this island, which I think the town is supposed to maintain. So it's the green you see are weeds, the brown are leaves and dirt. It's a mess. It needs to be irrigated, needs some sod, needs the trees trimmed. Next. That's not my slide. Okay, done with that. Last item is communication between the residents and the board here. It's not wonderful. When you don't return a phone call, don't return an email, it kind of undermines your credibility and confidence with the residents. And I know you don't want to do that. A valid answer is, I'm busy. I'll get back to you in a couple of days. But just nothing? Thank you.
Thank you. I think next one is Cynthia Lucas.
Hi, Cynthia Lucas, 1 Mandalay Road. You got a packet from me. The first letter I sent out was May 18th. I sent a letter to the town. I sent a letter on August 4th with an estimate. I did talk to Dan, and Dan recommended that I get an estimate of what did I want done on my property. I've sent you pictures. Only one commissioner has contacted me. You have them all. I gave even the new town manager the pictures. This is not the first time that it flooded. They took care of that problem. Then I had an accident on my property. Somebody ran over my new fence. This was after the accident. You can see the black fence. I have a lake. I have a river. Let me quote Brian Mass. I have the Nile River running through my property. I assumed you got a letter from him. Not one person, only one commissioner could contact me? I've lived there over 20 years. I'm a widow. It's very inappropriate. And you know, I really love this town. I've been supportive of the police and some of the commissioners. And to have no one contact me really makes me feel really aggravated. And I cry about this at night. I'm very proud of my property, and I take care of it by myself, and yet not one person, only one. And Dan, I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings, or I was mean to Dan. Somebody told me that. I was never mean. I'm upset. I'm sure if it was your property, you would be too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gretchen Gable?
Hi, my name is Gretchen Gable. I'm at 167 South Sewalls Point Road. I think most of you know me and my address pretty well. I apologize, I don't have anything prepared formally. I did just want to come up and let you all know that I am still having issues with flooding on my property as well, as many of us on our street are. I did send you a slide, that was that last one that Phil had up. This is the biggest issue that we're having right now. This is actually a video. Can you play it? So all the water that comes down Mandalay Road now comes into my property, pretty much. As you can see, half of the water goes into the collecting system, I assume, the way that it's supposed to, and the other half goes into my property. So I'm ending up with this flood all inside my property, which was our concern all along. It was something that we had expressed from the very beginning when I started sending emails in June of 2021. I have multiple emails saying the same thing over and over and over again. Everyone assured my husband and I that it would work. It's not working. The system's not working. It's flooding into my property. Not to mention that big grading thing there looks absolutely awful. It looks like it's an unfinished piece of concrete sitting in my yard. I don't think it looks good for my personal property. It also doesn't look good for the town. When you're coming down the street, it's ugly. I have to agree with Phil, because I look at that silver piece every single day at the end of the street that's obstructing our view and just looks like a big piece of equipment or electric or whatever it is. It's just not aesthetically pleasing. I think there's certainly a lot of ways that we can get around it to make it look a whole lot better. Just feel like a lot of this has just kind of been left undone, maybe hoping it would go away, maybe not sure what to do. Personally, I think it would be nice to have a conversation with the other neighbors in the street and all of you. I don't know how that really works politically, but you know, we have a lot to say. We have a lot of justified things that are concerning for our street and our neighborhood and our town. We're all very proud of where we live. I think all of you are. You know, and it should be better. And to move on to another phase and have this wonderful ribbon cutting that phase 1 is done, yay, let's go to the next. That's kind of a kick to us because, you know, we haven't fixed the problems that we have and now we're moving on to do something else. You know, it's hard for us to see that and watch that. But I also have another letter that I have to read from another street resident, neighborhood resident. He's not here. He asked that I read it on his behalf. So if you give me a minute, I'm going to grab that. I also just want to mention that I support everything my neighbors are saying tonight as well. I see it day to day, so I agree with everything and support them. Okay. Oh, he gave me a nice introduction. I'll read it word for word. So these are not my words. These are Andrew's words. I'm not sure what his address is, though. He's at the top of Mandalay on the left. 9, thank you. Okay. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, and town staff. My name is Gretchen Gable, and I am here this evening representing my neighbors Andrew Molaskalub and Katia Liska? I don't know. Sorry. At 9 Mandalay Road. Andrew regrets that he is again unable to attend this meeting as he is currently on a flight traveling for business reasons, and Katia is also out of town. I am sure many of you are familiar with the problem that Andrew and Katia have based their prior attendance and presentation during public comment at previous meetings. I am also sure that most of you are familiar with their collection of sandbags along South River Road, which have sadly become a permanent fixture and block access to their garage. I recall when Andrew and Katia moved into the neighborhood and were immediately impressed by the care and attention they gave to turning their house into a home. Fast forward over 3 years, and I still see Andrew out there all of the time working to improve his property or engage in family conversation with neighbors. We have a great block filled with wonderful neighbors. Sadly, the ongoing and omnipresent problem of flooding is a central theme around here, and we are absolutely exhausted. We are all impacted in our own way, but have united in our campaign to seek support from the town to resolve this matter once and for all. Like all of us, Andrew and Claudia love their home, but their neighbors in the town of Sewalls Point, and the town of Sewalls Point. But as you all know, their house continues to flood because of the onslaught of water traveling along South River Road. They still ask themselves, is this why the previous owners moved out? Though speaking with several neighbors and those very familiar with Mandalay, they sadly learned that their house was known as a flood house. Following the guidance of Joe Capra, they were ordered a topographic survey, only to learn that the surveyors referred to our property as a soup bowl with the source of floodwaters moving along the South River Road and hitting their driveway and flooding their property even during the lightest of rains. Also, at Joe's recommendation, along with other members of the commission, Andrew and Claudia hired Mike Flaw as his team of landscape architects. They have designed a plan which will alleviate some of the issues and also follows the guidelines being set forth by CapTech in terms of stored water retention. They will retain their own water, but they should not be forced to convey the volumes of water entering the property from public roads. This is where they need the town to assist by approving the budget item marked Phase 1, Part 4. They are truly working in partnership with the town and with CapTech, but they need the town's help. Please be reminded that Andrew and Claudia are very resilient people, and please recollect the presentation by Mike Flaw at the meeting on June 28th. It is their goal to utilize their own resources to solve part of this significant problem. They are not asking the town for financial support to pay for the work on their property. Please note that this is not a situation, or is not a solution for the root cause of the problem. It is only a solution that will lessen the impact on the property. We know that the town has recognized the problem and has included a fix in the budget being discussed this evening. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter. That's from Andrew. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
That's all the public comment we have. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda? If not, I'll look for a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
I'll second.
Please call the roll.
Discussion.
Discussion.
I just want to remind the folks that have come to discuss your issues tonight that we would like to talk to you about them. It will be the last item of the agenda. If you'd like to stick around, you can hear our input from them, and I will ask the current status from the staff on some of those concerns. We make a practice of not having direct dialogue during this part of the meeting, but we would like to have some dialogue with you, so if you'd stick around, and we'd love to have our response to some of these concerns.
Thanks, James.
Thank you. So then I will call the question.
Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Kurzman,
Yes.
Commissioner Campo,
Aye.
Commissioner Fender,
Aye.
Commissioner Mayfield,
Yes.
Mayor Tompeck.
Yes. That brings us down to the public hearing. 5A, announcement of the percentage by which the adopted tentative millage rate exceeds the rollback rate. And we'll turn this over to Mr. Daniels.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. As you know, this budget process started before I came on board, so we've had Dan working on this process, and as part of our overlay, I guess, of both Dan's work and the work that we're starting. I'm going to turn the floor over to Dan and Holly, and he'll make the presentation.
Good evening. Just want to go over the process just to get us started. You know, we only adopt the budget once a year, and so it's not something we do every meeting. But this is I'm going to just skim this cover memo, but this is a public hearing to tentatively adopt the Town of Sewalls Point property tax rate and budget. The structure follows a legally mandated sequence of actions, and so the recommendation basically describes the sequence of actions. I'm going to go over the statutory required language and then give you a brief summary, and then at that time you can open it up to hear public comments, any additional comments, or, and then after that, then the commission would discuss and direct any changes that you might want to make to the budget. And then once you're satisfied that it's where you want it to be, then you just proceed systematically to adopt each of the resolutions in order. So the required language is that the proposed millage rate of 3.27 mils is greater than the rollback rate of 2.9357 mils by 11.39%. We caught one little error in the numbers, so the numbers may look a little bit different than you've seen previously, but the general fund is $3,243,050. It was previously $236,040. And then the capital projects fund is $6,983,000, and then the building permit fund is $430,000, and that brings the total to $10,656,050. Following the budget workshop on August 9th, we discussed a number of these items. In addition, Mr. Daniels asked the staff to go back and just take one last scrub of the budget and see if there's anything else that needed to be identified. So what is included in the budget that's in front of you tonight then is $20,000 for a communication plan, $60,000 for a grant writing / lobbyist, $13,000 for a water supply plan, which there will be a DEO grant for this, $10,000 to update the land development regulations, and then some additional items, $1,800 for a police copier, $2,400 for the main copier replacement, some software licenses, and then $20,000 for a town manager contingency. So by adopting the budget, you're basically adopting everything that we've discussed so far and has been presented to you, along with the changes that have been incorporated up to this time. So at this time, that's the summary overview of the budget and the statutory language, so you can hear additional public comments regarding the budget and then discuss and direct any changes.
Holly, do you have anything to add, or? Okay. Are there any comments from the public? Seeing none, are there any comments from the commission, discussion from the commission?
I've got some questions when it comes to the budget, but at this point, I'm going to make a motion that we approve resolution number 939, setting the millage rate.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Campo?
Aye.
Commissioner Fender?
Discussion on the floor?
I'm sorry.
There's a light.
Oh, excuse me. Commissioner Mayfield?
I was looking at the little expanded agenda that says commission discuss, but are we going to, I thought Dan had said we just talk first and then review them all, or approve them all, but if we can approve it now, I mean,
Well,
I don't have a problem with going ahead with the millage
millage,
rate,
yeah,
and then
okay.
we can do the,
yeah, I
Before
think
we-
you can
before we
do
do
the millage rate.
940,
I
we
don't-
need to have the
I don't know
conversation.
that the millage rate would change.
okay.
So if
Should
you
I
want
read
to
the
approve that
resolution
now,
into the
it'd be
record?
okay.
All right, let's, I'm sorry, we need to back up here. April, would you please read the resolution?
A resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Sewalls Point, Florida, adopting the tentative millage rate for the Town of Sewalls Point for the fiscal year commencing on October 1st, 2022, and ending on September 30th, 2023, and providing an effective date and other purposes.
Okay, and we had a motion to approve and also a second, and you got partway through the roll.
Commissioner Fender?
Aye.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes.
Mayor Tompeck?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kurzman?
Yes.
Okay, so that'll bring us to Resolution 940. Before we go into the details, could you please read the resolution title into the record?
A resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Sewalls Point, Florida, adopting the tentative budget for the Town of Sewalls Point for the fiscal year commencing October 1st, 2022, and ending on September 30th, 2023, and providing an effective date and other purposes.
Okay, do we have any public comment on Resolution number 940? Seeing none, we can start our discussion. Commissioner Campo.
Okay, in no particular order, I'm just going to throw out a few questions, concerns, and then we can kind of tackle them. An area of my concern on an ongoing basis has been the budget for a land planner. I had issue with the methodology of getting the request for proposal. We only got one request for proposal for a planner. We ended up spending about $200,000, and we only got one bid. And during that time, I raised an issue as far as the amount of money that we were using to create a new comprehensive plan. And I was told it wasn't going to be $200,000, and it was broken down, and then it ended up being two allocations of $100,000. So I didn't really think that was making any progress. Now I'm seeing that there's a continuing budget for planning, and I called and tried to get some detail as far as the ongoing consultant for planning services of $20,000, and now an additional $10,000 for LDRs. I raised the issue at the beginning, were the LDRs going to be part of the package? I was told yes, and now we're being, charged for that planning. I don't think we ever designated a desire to have a ongoing relationship with a planning consultant, and especially without proper bidding. So when I saw that there was $20,000 with no explanation, and then another $10,000, I've got a question and a concern on that. My concern goes back, and another concern that I have is that in comparing the budget, I think you did a great job in the workshop, but I don't know what we spent last year in any of these categories, and I don't know what we budgeted last year. So what I would like to do is, after we tweak it tonight, is to request that before we do the final budget approval, we have line-by-line columns of each income and expense generally, and I've spoken to Holly. Just because moving forward, it's hard to just come up with a number if we don't know what we spent last year. So I'd like to have what we budgeted for 2022 fiscal year, and through July, an actual of what we actually spent, and then we can promulgate, kind of eyeball it. I know that with the the building permit fees, 400,000 is sky high, but I know that this year was sky high as well. But I'd like to just see that relatively lined up. So that's another question that I've got. We discussed I think we call it a brief synopsis, a one-pager for capital improvement projects. And I think especially with what's coming out tonight and what we've been discussing, I'm going to, again, go to the town engineer, give him a heads up, because we have numbers as far as projects. We have a number for the Mandalay and the water project. But see, it's times like this that we are asked for details, and guess what? Now we don't have the details. But we do have a budget in excess of $500,000 that we've got included in the capital improvement projects for finishing up some of the items. But we don't have the detail. So we can't communicate that detail, and no one knows how their project's going to be impacted. We can't talk to people about their specific situation. So I think that we need a further breakdown of not just the description of the projects on the capital improvement program, but a breakdown of the engineering cost, the permitting cost, the construction cost, because it's too nebulous for us to get our arms around. And then when we need to communicate to the public that we're listening and that we're trying to get things done, and that we've spent more money on a certain area of town that we have in any other area of town for 10 years, it sounds like we're just not listening. So I would like to have the capital improvement project, again, spoke to Holly about this, I'd like to have a breakout of the elements of the costs of the projects so that we know the engineering costs and the construction and permitting and the actual, permitting and then the actual construction. So that's what I would like between now and our final budget. If you'd like to answer any part of that now, that's fine, but
Yeah, let me
I'd
have,
rather just
if I
throw it all
can.
out there now.
Yeah, you mentioned the planning contract, and my observation is that you do have some ongoing questions come forward throughout the year that warrant planning consultant. You know, Mr. Torsivia's law firm has planning expertise, and you're not necessarily committing, by adopting the budget, you're not committing to a particular firm. I don't know what the cancellation arrangement is on that particular contract that you're referring to, but I'm sure there's some method for ending that contract and doing a new set of bids if you'd like it. But I do recommend that you include money for some planning services in the budget, and especially this LDR update, because that ties directly to the changes you made with the comprehensive plan. So that would be one recommendation. The comparison to last year, that's doable. That's certainly doable in the time frame that we're looking at. I'm not so up to date on the individual CIP sheets because that's kind of like a new element that came up at the CIP workshop. So that might take a little more time, and will obviously involve the town engineer to come up with that kind of detail. So I don't see him here this evening. So
I think on that one, Dan, I've given the town manager a template, and I think Holly has the template as well.
yeah, that's right.
So I think it's
Yeah.
just a case of filling out the template, which obviously is going to require CapTech's input.
Yeah.
And once again, what I think Commissioner Campo and I'm looking for is a breakdown of the costs associated with each one of those capital projects in terms of permitting, land development, engineering, construction, whatever.
And if I may, what I would suggest, that's not something you want to do quickly. I think you want to spend a little time in devising those individual CIP sheets. But for your purposes as elected officials, maybe what I might suggest is that when you start to spend money on each of those projects, have that capital project sheet ready at that time. Would be what I would suggest. So, but those are all, all good comments. So thank you. Happy to answer other questions.
So perhaps the way to do that would be before the project starts.
Holly, can you come up?
Oh, sorry. Perhaps at the point that, maybe actually have a formal item that you bring that sheet forward, and then you as the commission approve that, hey, we're going to start this project, and this is what we've got as the budget. So actually have a budget for each of those projects that comes before you, you approve it, and then it starts, the project kind of starts. So, maybe that would be the way to get it through.
Well, again, I like to do things quickly. I like to do them way ahead of time. I like to do them before that. So that, to me, is delayed. I think it should be the time that we actually approve the budget. But that's a beginning. We're going in the right direction. It's just maybe at different speeds.
Commissioner Mayfield.
Yes. Just a few of the points that were brought up, quick comments on them. I do want to say that Commissioner Campo brought up the comprehensive plan. I only know because I think I remember because I was more involved with that as the mayor. The price was at $1,200,000, but I believe it was reduced significantly to 120 or 130 or something around. I don't believe it was 200,000, but and then obviously, it would be nice to have that comparison to the budget that you mentioned also. We did, if you wanted quick reference, I did happen to bring August 9th's agenda with us because we did the budget then, and it is included in the August 9th agenda if you guys want to quickly look at that and not have to wait for them to get it. The previous year's budget and the actuals as of May 31st. I also agree a cost breakdown of those projects would be great. It's hard to, you just have this big number that we're like, yeah, that looks great, and we don't really know what's behind it. As for my comment on the budget, I mentioned this at the last meeting, but I think it's important. I think that we should take off the bathroom capital improvement. If you look at the budget, there is a line item, reserve utilization under the capital projects funds.
What's the account number?
It's page 10 under tab A, or I'm sorry, not A, C, 5C. Um, 381 at the bottom, reserve utilization for 142,000. And I had a discussion with Holly about this. That's pretty much just money carried forward. We had an increase in funds this year with ARPA and the road improvement fees. But again, the ARPA is not an ongoing thing. That's kind of a one-time thing. We have these projects coming up. I remember going to meetings where we had to approve overages. No matter how well you plan, I think there are going to be overages and problems. I mean, they're happening right now from projects we've already done. I would say that we not do the bathroom and take that money and just take out the $75,000 expense for the bathroom improvement and use less of the reserves, and maybe make it overages. It's essentially the same thing, but specify, overages for the projects coming up. That's something that I would think would be a good idea. I don't think we need the bathroom, and I think we have these projects coming up where problems can arise, and that would be money better utilized. And that,
I can support that.
okay. Other than that, I think you guys did a great job with all this information, truly. And I think Holly does a great job. I appreciate her time answering questions. But that was really the main issue I saw.
Well,
Oh, and-
before we move forward, do we want to get a consensus? I'm afraid it says a consensus on the bathrooms.
Yeah.
So we know, so far, 2 people have said they would like to have it out. Is there,
I'll be a third.
okay, so let's go ahead and take it out then.
Okay. Yeah, I think what I would suggest is just leave the budget total alone. We'll strike that line item and put the difference into a capital reserve, is that?
Put it into contingency.
Contingency, okay,
Project contingency or something like that.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, Commissioner Maple, go ahead.
No, I think that was my main, like I said, everything else looked there. Oh, that's farther along. There, I saw a typo in one of the resolutions, but that's farther along. Budget-wise, that is it for now.
Commissioner Fender?
So I was also going to acknowledge, thanks for the hard work on this. I get that there's a transition from the old accounting staff to the new, and we'd spent a lot of time in the past trying to get these reports exactly the way we wanted. And so I would like to thank you for the last-minute inclusion of trying to get us numbers from last year to this year for comparison. Since we have a little more time, I'd ask to go one step farther and try to get the budget report back to including last year compared to this year, but also a column for percentage difference as well, so I don't have to do the math quickly, if that's possible. But thanks for that, and that's helpful. Obviously, for the record, I'll say that we do need that bathroom, but I'm also in favor of keeping it on the list and pushing it to a future fiscal year, because money is tight. But I don't want to lose the project, but we need to be cognizant of the budget right now, for sure. And again, thanks for this, and appreciate your work.
Vice Mayor Kurzman?
Yeah, there's a couple of things I saw in there. One of the things was we're hooking up to sewer for the building. The price is I'm trying to find it back on my paper again. I'm trying to find where I was. It was over $300,000 to hook Town Hall to the sewers. Am I correct on that?
Yes, that's the project that we finally got approval for, to convert the town hall to,
348. But half of it is reimbursed on the next page.
yeah, that also includes the 3 office buildings along A1A here and the town hall. That's the total project for all 4 buildings.
So we're still paying out of pocket half of that then?
No, we're paying out of pocket about $75,000, and that would be coming out of town taxpayer coffers.
That's what I was trying to grasp.
The
Yeah.
balance is paid by a grant and by the other property owners.
All right, now I understand that. And the other thing I was looking for, the original cost of the project that we were quoted on Phase 1, what is it, B, where then we added more things later on at a higher cost. Well, not even River Road before that. We were asked to come up with more money to finish the project. We still had a punch list. And the problem is, even with the punch list, it's still not right. I mean, this is somewhat of a concern that we need to get back and fix this. The retention pond isn't what it was supposed to have been. The properties that were mentioned aren't what they were supposed to have been, and we paid. And I know there's some money being held back, but it's not a lot. At this point, I mean, I just feel there has to be a little more accountability. Somehow, somewhere, it's just,
Well, just put $75,000 into a capital reserve that was dedicated to the bathroom. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that could certainly be a source of addressing those problems. I'm going to say at the bottom of Mandalay.
But I don't think the town should pay anything at this point because it wasn't done properly. There were people out there that looked at these properties, and one of the concerns was that it was supposed to, the water was supposed to go on the individual properties, was supposed to go into the drains. It's not going into the drains. When it's going on the property, that's a problem. And, there has to be some accountability. When you see things aren't working the way they should, somebody's got to come in and adjust it. It shouldn't cost the town any money. At this point, the bleeding has to stop on all ends. And
Well, I think, that's.
we'll get into that later. That's something you missed that, Joe, at the
About that
beginning.
at the end.
But, yeah, this is,
Good comments.
Anything else?
that's it right now.
Okay.
I'm good, thank
Commissioner
you.
Mayfield?
Yeah, one thing I forgot that, roads and bridges, page, I think it's 15, capital projects fund, 10,000 for streetlight and sign maintenance. And I know streetlights were mentioned earlier, and I have had other comments throughout my commissionership. I feel like some streetlights need some work. I know one near myself could really use some, at least aesthetic improvement. Although I'm not sure if it's owned by the town. But anyways, do you think 10,000, I mean, how much is that number looked at? I do not know but I know there was one light on Rio Vista that took a long time to fix. Like, is this a good number? Basically, obviously, I feel like numbers are good, but if we have to replace streetlights?
One of the recommendations we have made is to develop a detailed asset inventory. And
Okay.
and that's certainly something that a detailed asset inventory would better tell us if that's a good number.
Okay,
The streetlights are owned by the town, so they do have to be maintained by the town.
are all of them owned by the town? Do you know that off the top of your head?
I don't know. I don't know
If
about
I may,
the ones on-
no, there's some that are FP&L, some are DOT, but we are looking at researching different avenues.
Yeah.
And one of those, as FP&L converts to the LED lights, they also are interested in looking at our lighting situation and possibly giving us a quote on what it would cost for them to take care of our lights so we can get out of the light maintenance business. So the only thing we have to be assured of is the quality. I mean, if we're in control, we can work a lot quicker than what I've seen FP&L do in other jurisdictions. I'm not sure how they've been functioning here. I know we got into a debate over one light, and I'm not sure if it's one of the ones that was brought up tonight or not, but we had a light that supposedly it's our light, but it wasn't getting power to it. And so now it ends up being that it's really something that we're responsible for handling, but we got that like 6 months later, and,
Okay.
time-wise. So that's one of the things that we're working on for
Okay.
the future that I'll bring back to the commission for you all to make a decision what
Okay.
your preference is.
Okay, well, not worthy of a change at one point, but I'm glad that I brought it up so you could tell me these things, because I feel like they're kind of an ongoing issue.
Commissioner Campo?
Yeah, there's something else that I missed earlier. There's and Glenn, you're up. A water supply plan, which is, again, another consultant for a plan that's, in my opinion, going to sit on the bookshelf. So the expense is shown. There's a little footnote that says there will be a DEO grant for this, but I don't see that as income, but I see that as an expense. So, and I'm going to put Glenn on the spot because you were going to find a way for us to get out of that so that we didn't have to do that. That was the task that I gave you. Any luck?
But what are your, plan?
I don't know who was asking us to hire a consultant for a water supply plan. It's the South Florida Water Management District, the same people that tell us when we can water our properties and not, or else we get, a crime. It's an unfunded mandate. That's what they do. And now we have to come up with a plan. I don't know why we're having to spend that money, and I had asked you if you knew of a way for us to get out of it.
Yeah, obviously, one option is you just don't do it and let South Florida Water push back. They may not push back for a period of time. Eventually, they will. And, I don't know how hard they're going to push on that, to tell you the truth. And I don't know if they're going to do something like if the town needs a consumptive use permit or something else, if they will flag that you don't have the water supply plan. They've gotten much more aggressive, even on the watering, as you mentioned, much more aggressive on encouraging everybody to pass the ordinances on what days are watering and pushing people to enforce it more. So I don't have a definitive answer other than, they're generally a while before they'll push, but eventually they'll push.
So if we're going to push back the bathroom and they are not pushing that hard, it's always good to pay an expense in the future if you don't have to pay it right now. What precipitated that in your mind, Dan?
What precipitated the request for the water supply plan?
Yes.
It was during the comp planning review. One of the steps in the comp plan review is it gets distributed to all state agencies, Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, MPO, FDOT, Water Management District, and so they all have the opportunity to comment. So one of their comments they sent back was, we need to produce a water supply plan, and that's how it got into the mix. So it is something that's in the statute. The odd, I think for the benefit of the public, the odd thing about it is the town doesn't have any water management permits. We're not we don't have a utility, not for water supply at least, for outfalls possibly. So it could be like getting an outfall permit, could be where they could come back and, pressure the town into doing something about it, so.
And that
So,
was,
but it's
and that was,
odd.
that was in addition to the interlocal agreement with Martin County Utilities for them providing us water, I think, right?
Yeah, the
Is it addition-
interlocal agreement with Martin County is a staff recommendation just to secure a contractual relationship with the county for providing water service.
And one would think that the water supply plan could be maybe a corollary or an addendum to the Martin County plan, no? Wouldn't that make sense?
It makes sense to me. Whether it makes sense to the Water Management District, I don't know. I mean,
So,
that could be.
so it was a comment to something we sent to them. It wasn't like a letter that said,
Well, it
You
was
must-
it was a very aggressively worded email from the Water Management District. I'll say it was very aggressively worded, like, we're going to get in the way of your comp plan approval if you don't put this in your recommendation. I mean, I'm highly summarizing, it was about 3 or 4 pages long, but it was very aggressively worded.
If I may, I can go ahead and pick up the ball and run with it. I met today with some of the county officials and the water plan manager for the county, so maybe there's something that we could adapt their plan or adopt it to our use, but I'll get to the bottom of it and come back with some recommendations.
so I would say, let's take it out, and if they require us to put it back in, we'll do it in the future. I don't know how you all think about that.
Glenn, do you have something you want to
The
add?
only thought I had is sometimes we're applying for different grants, and it could be a requirement of a grant.
Well,
So-
supposedly, when we got this new comprehensive plan, the grants were just going to come
Right.
flowing.
Well,
That's
that's exactly what I was thinking. So, whether it's IRL Council or Water Management District or DEP, if there's any grants, they might be saying, did you check this box?
Those folks give us money. The Water Management District doesn't give us any money, okay?
Understood.
So, anyway.
I think we should, I'm sorry. Ouch.
It's not that much money, but it's the point of, unelected officials having unfunded mandates on money that we could be spending for our residents. That's my opinion.
I think it would be wise to just at least leave it in while he explores other options, because otherwise, if you have to spend it, if you don't spend it, it will just be the same bottom line anyways.
Yeah, I think we
Right.
should leave it until we have a little more information on it.
I agree.
Okay?
Including it in the budget doesn't obligate you to spend the money. It would come back to the commission to enter into that contract, so.
Okay, I see.
Okay, I'm sorry. What about the DEO grant that at the side note said, hey, don't worry about this expense, we got a grant? I don't see that as income.
Yeah, I'm advised that it's available to the town, but
Okay.
that's all we know at this point, so.
And who
unless Holly
do-
knows
yeah,
something
and who does that?
so.
I mean, it's easy to spend and it's hard to get, so let's, pardon? I don't know, but it's there to justify us spending the extra money and putting it in the budget. So, I'm sure Mr. Daniels can follow up on that. right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Made the note already. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any, well, I didn't mention any comments, but I've gone through the budget, and I really appreciate the way that it's set up this year. It's a lot, I like the way you've set it up in the three separate funds. And I wanted to thank Holly for her help yesterday on the phone, and me decipher some of the things I wasn't sure of. Okay, so we don't have any, are there any other comments on the budget?
No, I will move that we pass resolution number 940, passing of the budget with the request that have been stated earlier about clarifications between now and the final budget.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Fender?
Aye.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes.
Mayor Tom Peck?
Yes?
Vice Mayor Kurzman?
Yes.
Commissioner Campo?
Aye.
Okay, that brings us to item D, resolution number 941, adopting the five-year capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2022 through 2023. Town clerk, please read the resolution title into the record.
A resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Sewalls Point, Florida, adopting the five-year capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2022, 2023, and providing for an effective date and other purposes.
Okay, are there any comments from the public on this resolution? And we have some discussion from the commission. Commissioner Campo?
Just to follow up on Commissioner Mayfield's suggestion, I think we should formally, now that we're on the CIP, strike the Town Commons restroom from the capital improvement project. And then I'd like to turn it over to the town engineer to talk to us about the number one item in the capital projects, and that's South Sewalls Point Road Phase 1, Part 4, $535,000. And there are some folks here that are concerned about the water and how it's flowing down Mandalay especially. If you could talk to us about what's built into that $535,000, I think it's an appropriate time for us to talk about it, right?
Mayor, can I add something so quick?
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes, just something, because you talked about striking out the bathroom, which I appreciate. And then I would say that on the next page, page 19, under the capital maintenance, it says road improvement fees. If we could kind of say that's a carryover, and that is the correct term for it, right? Because if you tie it out, it doesn't tie, if you just go to the current road improvement fees, it doesn't tie out. So just under capital maintenance, gas tax 1, gas tax 2 would be road improvement fee carryover. That shows that it's from the prior year. That's it.
So that's page 19, capital maintenance.
Yes, page 19, it's the funding part, so you have capital projects up top, and then the capital maintenance at the bottom. And the, it says, funding is where you're getting the money from, so the 139,000 was from road improvement fees carryover, technically. It's just money from the prior year. It's really just
That's not-
me feeling,
That's not my understanding. I understood that, maybe I misunderstood when I
It
talked
doesn't
to
say carryover.
Holly yesterday, that the carryover is not included in the budget. The carryover will eventually be part of a budget amendment once we have the full numbers through September. So I don't think that's carryover unless I'm
Well, it's-
misunderstanding it.
For most of the projects, what you said is exactly correct. But when we did this budget for the CIP, this $139,000, we collect road improvement fees in the current year. So when we did this 5-year plan, we know that we didn't have to spend that $139,000 in the current year that we've already collected. So that actually was rebudgeted already. So that, just that one line, so in the rebudget of those road improvement fees, because we collect on every permit, a road improvement fee, which is used for road,
Okay.
okay?
It just came out because I was trying to tie the numbers to the budget, and it is basically that, and Holly, please correct me if I'm wrong, the reserve utilization under the capital improvements project is the,
Yes, so if you go back to the budget on page.
That's how it ties in.
Yes, it ties to the 139 plus the $2,390.
yes.
Basically tie in, it's off by 1,000 because of this capital millage is 315 here, but it's really 314. So there's
Yes.
a couple little minor number changes here, but that's how you tie to the budget that's basically you just adopted.
So does the 139 then need to go up by the 75?
Yes, it goes up by the, it'll actually go up by the, well, it's funding, so it would be up, see the line, like maybe 4 down on that same page, where it's got $2,390?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so those two are added together is the 141,
390.
yeah.
Right. But the idea is if we're not spending it, then we're not
That's correct.
rating our reserves to.
Right,
okay,
exactly.
okay. All right, so I think that ties well.
It's really just, it's not as, I think I made it more than it is.
Everything's got a balance.
Yes.
We know. We know how CPAs think. Everyone's got a balance. You got a debit, you got a credit, right?
Yes, I was just, it's all good.
Commissioner Fender?
So if it's carryover, does it also carry over to 2024 and the subsequent years going forward?
It would if it doesn't get expensive.
Okay, but
Yeah, so when we set up the capital projects funds, which again, it'll be set up kind of exactly at the end of the year into the new year, that money, once it goes into the capital projects funds, it really is kind of dedicated unless you all take action to take that money out of the capital projects funds and put it back into the general fund operating fund. So the purpose is to actually have that fund there for capital projects. So in a way, yes, once it gets there, it's going to stay there to be used for whatever projects that you might change in the future, because right now you're adopting your 5-year capital improvement plan, but you might have changes to it next year, the year after, and if that money gets into that fund, it's going to stay in that fund until you actually have a project that spend the money.
Okay, understood.
If I could ask for clarification on the restroom, did you want to delete it completely, or I thought I heard someone say maybe move it into a
Future year, I
Yeah.
think.
Move into a future year.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, are there any other discussion items or comments on resolution number 941?
Yeah, I was looking for the town engineer.
Sorry, it was not as quick as I thought it would be.
That's okay,
Sorry.
it's okay.
Okay, do we want to go through the details of that project right now? Mr. Capper?
I assume you've seen the videos we've seen, right? Came in a little bit late.
Good evening, Commissioners. Joe Capper for the record. All right, so the first item on that list is $535,000. I will tell you that I have not done a final design on that number. Basically, if you recall, we had complaints from the property owners, asked us to look into it, and you gave me direction to go out and look at it, and I came up with a conceptual plan, okay? Basically, what we're talking about is South River Road. It's generally in the area between Delano Lane and Margarita. And in that area, from the discussion, because we had a meeting after your meeting with the residents, basically, they obviously want the water that is falling onto that road to be captured because it continues to flow to the east of that area, which is impacting some of the local residents. So essentially, what I heard from the residents, and I will tell you, it's going to take some time to go do survey work and spend some money to look at these things. What I heard is basically, first of all, the road is slanted in one direction. We were going to crown the road to basically capture that water in a valley gutter, which then ultimately will be put in inlets, which ultimately will go underground in an exfiltration system. When that system is in place, of course, it has to capture the road water, okay, and put it underground. And that's the intention that I have for the project at this point. I'm going to have to get some survey work done. You have to realize, just like in any other stormwater retrofit that we've been working on, I have to capture the public water and basically treat that water first. Again, I cannot go put more water on the adjacent properties. As long as I take water away from the properties, then and from the roadway and putting it underground, that'll help the problem. I can't tell you that if I get a 25-year storm event of 11 or 12 inches of rain, that's going to solve that problem, but it will capture the water. And basically, I think one of the main problems we had out there, and we've been having, is sometimes when the contractor's been building the new homes, they basically have had water go around or through some of the what we call basically the silt fences and basically the berms that they put up, and basically have in pretty much flooded the downstream areas. I won't say flood, but basically impacted the downstream areas. So it's been a combination, I think, from listening to everybody speak, is there's things that we can do during the construction of homes and so forth, so that that water doesn't come down off into the roadway, which overflows and ultimately goes to the east even farther and impact the residents in that direction. So that's where that project is. It's, as you remember, I pretty much was given direction after that discussion that we were going to concentrate on Phase 3. That has had some significant changes in the last couple of weeks, I think to the better, but the fact of the matter is that's what I'm concentrating my time on, is to get money as much as we can from grants, as well as to consider the changes that we've been talking about relative to that project. The next step into this $535,000 would be to basically do some survey work, make sure all this, but it takes money and time to do that, and I did not want to spend the money on that until we've got Phase 3 under control. So that's the reason I have not put a lot of effort into that. I know what we need to do. It's like everything else. We need to capture water in the upland areas so it doesn't go down to the downstream areas, and that's what we do all through. That's what we've been doing at everything out here. So, and we'll do that again. But now I guess you've been getting some complaints about some problems in the Phase 1 area. We will be addressing them. We've been addressing them even when they send me videos of things. I look at them. I go and make some adjustments to the Swiss system. We tweak them. You know, they're not large sums of money to do those things. There's some lights that we heard about on one of the properties. Those need to be fixed. We've been having a little hard time getting the contractor to get out there and do that. There were some latch issues. They fixed the latch. There's some stormwater treatment plantings we could do better, but the stormwater treatment plants are growing, and quite frankly, they've built it per the plan. So, I mean, these are things we are tweaking. But what's good to hear about all this is, you know, just so we're clear about this, the 535 is probably the only number that I don't have a strong background on every little piece. But every one of these projects, I have a breakdown of everything that's in there. That's how I have to turn in grants. I have to be able to back up my numbers. They include cost of construction costs. They include engineering costs. They include land cost. So I understand you want to see them, and that's fine, but every grant we've done out here, we've had all that information in a map that kind of shows you the things we're talking about. But you have to understand a couple things. We consider land as something that we don't know if we're going to get the land. We don't know, you know, so I'm kind of just saying, well, there's some vacant land over here. we're not necessarily saying we're going to buy that property or we're going to get some cooperation from that property owner. So I kind of have to kind of put these things as a potential location of stormwater because there's not a lot of land out here. And so I'm doing everything I can within your right-of-way. If you want me to go start buying land and telling you to buy land, let's be frank about it. You're going to be tearing houses down, and we are not going to do that. We don't need to do that. We'll put everything in the right-of-ways we have. So I just want you to know, there is a list. I understand you need to see it. I'm not telling you that I'm not trying not to give it to you, but the fact of the matter is, all these things are in there, and, you know, I can go down the list of all the things that are in here. Phase 1 was a good example of what we need to do. There's some things we evolved into. We weren't pumping, if you remember, when we first started that project. Well, we added pumps, and that's a good backup for us. And fortunately, we went through a permitting process that, quite honestly, nobody else is doing, but we're getting those permits for you. And that's what we're going to have to do, is keep our eye on storm events that we cannot control. But we've got a number of grants out there, and they're all dependent on something called resiliency, okay? The $3.4 million one, the $100,000 of the planning grant that we had. They're talking about sea level rise. We have to address it, okay? That sea level rise will affect everything. And it's not just flooding, it's also, you know, your septic to sewer program. It's, you know, you're going to fill those voids with stormwater or sea level rise. So we have to address them. And so all these things we are trying to address in the capital improvement plan. And sometimes we find out things that, you know, we find out things that work a little differently out there. But I mean, if I were to survey everybody's lot and all the rights of way here, I'd probably have a better feel for how some of this is going to happen. But I try to do it with just limited amount of survey work, and that's what we do. So I'm comfortable with the stuff that's in here. If you want some explanation, streetlights, for example. The decorative streetlights out there, we own. They're at the end of the streets, okay? It's not the ones that are the overhead Cobra lights that FP&L owns. We own the decorative ones. In the time I've been here, we've painted them once. We've replaced bulbs as they burn out, okay? We do that. We don't seem to have a problem getting that done, okay? And so you may find some that over the last 5 years that you want to put more paint on them. They're not, they were good, we thought were expensive when we bought it. So now we are trying to keep using them, and so we paint them, and basically they work pretty well, you know, so, but don't be confused by the Cobra lights that go out from time to time, and FP&L takes quite a bit of time to get to them sometimes, so. Those are the street lights, but you know, you also need to know there are signs out there, the reflectiveness of a stop sign, okay? We have some signs that really should be taken down because they've been there forever. You need to replace them. Is $10,000 a lot of money? Yeah, it is a lot of money, but quite frankly, we fix them as we have a problem with them. So, you know, the couple items that are on here, like streets and bridges and seawalls, you know, we spent a lot of money last year on fixing the seawalls in Island Road as well as on Samara Street. And we're going to spend a little more money this year on top of the pretty much between the road and the seawall. We have to put some fabric in there. So we'll be spending money on that. Anyways, be happy to answer any other questions you have.
Commissioner Fender.
So just backing away from the detail for a second, do I understand from your statement that the 535 is really work on the high end of Mandalay, up on River Road, not down on Phase 1 area?
That's correct. So, and I'm glad you brought that up because quite honestly, don't say we don't get money from the Water Management District. We have gotten money from the Water Management District. Lately, we are getting it from DEP and FEMA, okay, the Inner River Lagoon Council. But in the past, we have gotten money in some of the areas, in the upland areas between River Road and South Sewalls Point Road from the Water Management District. They haven't given us a lot lately, and quite frankly, we don't have any grants with them right now. And so I can understand your frustration with them, but I just did want you to know we do get money from the Water Management District, and we constantly look for grants that they have, but they have not put out a lot of them that we would need. They do put out a lot for water use projects more than they do they do for stormwater right now.
Do you have a
Okay,
follow-up?
yeah, so I just wanted to make sure that the 535 was for the high end, and then you walked in a couple of minutes late. I live very near Phase 1, in fact, I walk my dog there once a week, and to the extent of when I see rain events, I drive down there to see how effective the Phase 1 activity has been. And up until just tonight, I've been ecstatic. Now I understand that there are actually some issues on Phase 1 for back reverse flooding. So you missed the video, but I assume you've seen it already, somebody shared it with you? I'm interested in how we're going to fix that Phase 1 issue.
Yeah, basically one overflow from one system into the other system.
It doesn't look like the water's flowing into the STA fast enough, and it's backing up into a couple of properties, and,
Can we, I don't mean to interrupt
Yeah,
you,
no.
but we're planning on talking about that at the end of the meeting. Can
fair
we-
enough, yeah, we can
do
certainly do that.
Rather than get it bogged down here with that.
Absolutely. I just want to make sure there's money in the budget to fix this problem somehow, whether it's on them or on us, but yes, we'll hold it till then.
Commissioner Campo?
Yeah, my reason for bringing it up at this stage, because we're probably going to still talk about it later, was I want to defend keeping that 535 in the capital improvement budget. Okay? And I just want to say that our commission is standing here ready to spend over $10 million on and much of it on capital improvement projects. And yet our ad valorem taxes that everyone here pays for their property taxes is only $2.5 million. So we are committed to doing capital improvement projects. We're probably spending as great a ratio as we ever have. We have confidence in the job. I have confidence in the job that Joe Capper's doing. I know we did a heck of a job, and I don't want great to be the enemy of good. I mean, we still have some tweaking to do. We got to get the root cause. The root cause is the folks on the west, are sending their water down. And if we could stop that and redirect it from the very beginning, that solves a lot of issues. So I just wanted to bring it up at this point to be clear that I want to keep that 535 in the capital improvement project.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments on resolution number 941? If not, I'll accept the motion.
I'll make the motion. Go ahead, you may,
Yep, I'll make the motion, you could second.
and I'll second.
Was it read?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes.
Mayor Tombeck?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kurzman?
Yes.
Commissioner Campo?
Aye.
Commissioner Fender?
Aye.
Okay, that brings us to resolution number 942, adopting the dedication of millage for capital projects. Will you please read the resolution title into the record?
A resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Sewalls Point, Florida, regarding the dedication of millage for capital projects, providing for severability conflicts, and an effective date and other purposes.
Are there any comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll open it up to commissioners. Any comments from the commission?
I'll make a motion to move it.
Wait, I had
I'm sorry, Commissioner Mayfield?
I support this. I mean, that was the raising of the taxes in the first place. My question is probably for Glenn. It says the dedication shall sunset, or maybe for the commission also, but we're doing it each year to just emphasize our commitment to it, which I'm good with. Okay,
That's my understanding.
okay.
I have, before you go ahead with your motion, Vice Mayor Kurzman, I do have a question and perhaps a problem. I was looking at the resolution from last year, and similar to resolution which was dedicating the millage for capital projects. And what we did last year was that we dedicated the .440 mills to be used solely to the South Sewalls Point Road Capital Improvement Project or debt service, including interest, for fiscal year 2021-22. And the way we've worded it this year is that it can be used solely for capital projects approved in the capital improvement plan. You recall last year when we went through the details of this, obviously there was some angst about raising the millage, and we hopefully we explained to the public as best we could that we needed the extra millage strictly to support the South Sewalls Point road work, and that's why it was written into the resolution the way it was last year. Now, I don't know if you think we ought to change that and say that millage is okay for any capital project in the 5-year capital plan, or do you want to still limit it to stormwater work associated with the South Sewalls Point road work?
It's not 5 years, it's just 1 year, though. Section 3, dedication of millage, that's only for the 1 year.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm just saying, do we want to, essentially what we've done here is we've opened it up for all capital projects in the capital improvement plan, as opposed to last year where we dedicated it strictly to the South Sewalls Point stormwater work. Vice Mayor Kurtzman.
As long as it stays to that, there shouldn't be a problem. And that's really what we're talking about this whole time. It really is still the stormwater management to prevent flooding. That was always what we were worried about and what we try to prevent.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't see that. I got a little preoccupied with the budget numbers. And there's a little typo there for whoever, it says use solely to for capital projects. At least that's what it says in mine, so get rid of to.
That's right.
Huh?
On the screen, that's correct.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at my agenda. No, it says it there, 2 for capital projects on section 3.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
I would say,
She sees numbers even in words, 2 and 4.
it's a bad one. I think that it should stay for South Sewalls Point Road. That is the project that has been the baby that we've worked so hard on, and that was the reason for the tax raise, to be the matching for the grant.
Commissioner Fender?
I voted in favor of the wording for last year, so I'm for keeping the wording as it is, but I'm happy to be overruled.
Mayor, if I may, and this is probably a technicality, but we just discussed the 545,000, whatever the amount was, for River Road, South River Road. So, technically that's not, although I think it has an effect on it, and maybe that's close enough, but it's not Sewalls Point Road, South Sewalls Point Road.
Commissioner Campo?
I think it was a good catch for you to delineate that. I like the way that it is currently printed, to open it up a little bit, because we have so many funding sources, and all these grants have got backwards somersaults that you have to, and I just don't want to tie the hands when we've got, money from this and money from that. I think this commission is dedicated to spending the money on capital projects and not on, parties or, something like that. So I'm actually good with both of it, but I just don't want to tie staff's hands, because juggling all these FEMAs and all the grants and all the alphabet soups that you have, I want to give the latitude so that we don't, have to get delays when it comes to that. So I would prefer the language as it's printed. Up on
And
the
just,
screen.
if I may, Mr. Mayor?
Please go ahead.
Yeah, just again, for the benefit of the public, just to remind everyone that we've also isolated the capital projects into a separate fund. So there's no way it can accidentally be commingled into operating expenses or ongoing kind of stuff, so.
Commissioner Fender?
I like the way Dan just put that, but I'm just worried about the optics of changing the reasoning, given the angst we went through last year with this raise. I don't want it to be misconstrued that now we're doing something differently, but I totally understand, and we should keep this on capital projects.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, pretty much the way Dan just explained things before I pushed the button, I'm satisfied with that.
Okay, so in other words, you're satisfied with the wording as is in the new resolution?
I am.
Okay. Commissioner Mayfield?
yeah, I think we should keep it the way it was. I mean, we raised taxes, it was painful, and that was part of the deal and I had said before that I was worried about the resources being spent on the River Road project. Again, I support it being done, but we have like one consultant engineer, and I don't want the focus to get off the first ball we had in the air, and again, that was part of the deal. If you support the tax increase, we will spend it on South Sewalls Point Road. So I would want to keep it. But I understand the other side, but that's how I will vote.
Okay, can I get a Anybody want to make a motion about either changing it or leaving it the same?
I'll move we pass Resolution 942 as currently written.
And I'll second.
Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Mayor Tompeck,
No.
Vice Mayor Kurzman,
Yes.
Commissioner Campo,
Aye.
Commissioner Fender,
Aye.
Commissioner Mayfield.
No.
Okay. Actually, although I think it's important, once again, it's important to understand as well that any of these projects that come up still get voted on here before they go any further. So we can certainly control ourselves to not spend the dedicated millage on things that aren't not very important. Okay, the next item is Resolution Number 943, committing general fund reserves for disaster reserve and operating reserve. Town clerk, please read the resolution title into the record.
A resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Sewalls Point, Florida, committing general fund reserves for a disaster reserve, an operating reserve, and a fire rescue reserve, and providing an effective date and other purposes.
Are there any comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll open it up for the commission. Anybody have comments, or I'll take a motion? Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes. Do you, for the fire rescue reserve, or would we be doing this every year to, because that one will get spent, right? The disaster reserve and operating reserve will stay there, hopefully, because, but the fire rescue that's fine. I don't think this is a bad idea. I think I just was curious.
The fire rescue contract increases gradually
Right.
each year, and then there's a big bump. I think
Right.
it's 2 years out, and so it'll gradually diminish as it gets closer to that threshold.
So this is kind of just for that threshold moment for that year that it goes up to? I'm not familiar with the exact
Yeah,
changes
it's
of the.
like 235 between now and 2 years from now, so
Okay.
so we bump it up this year because we've got, the idea here is to build it into the operating millage, so.
Okay.
Base, so. And this is also, this whole resolution is new this year to give a higher level of recognition to your reserves so that they can be recognized in your audit.
Sounds good.
Commissioner Campo?
I just wanted to point out in the budget workshop back in August, page 66, just for everyone to understand that's paying attention, that 77% of our budget goes for fire and police protection. 77% of our ad valorem taxes. So that means 23% is available for capital improvement projects. And I don't think people really understand how expensive it is to call 911. 23% is, not a lot to put together. So what our business model has been is to use as many grants and other outside funding sources so that we can knit together a way to get the maximum level of service for residents without them having to pay for it. And our contract with the City of Stewart is about to go up in 2 years by about $300,000. So what we're trying to do today is bridge that gap so that we don't have a calamity when that costs up. Our police have unionized. Inflation is 8 or 9%. We're giving our staff cost of living. Cost of living is 8 or 9%, and we're able to do that and keep the ad valorem tax level the same. So I just think that that's important to put out there. There's a lot of demands, and asphalt and engineering and surveying and road construction, bridges, it's hard to pull out of 23%. I think we are doing a good job of trying to pull that off, and I'm glad for the breakout of those statistics, because I think it makes a really good point of, the delicate balance that we're walking, so.
Commissioner Fender?
I'll make a motion to accept Resolution 943 as written.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Aye. Oh, sorry.
No, not yet. Not yet.
I'm not anxious to get out of here at all. I'm loving it.
Vice Mayor Kurzman,
Yes.
Commissioner Campo,
Aye.
Commissioner Fender,
Aye.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes.
Mayor Tombeck?
Yes. Okay, so that brings us to commission and staff closing comments. Mr. Daniels?
Just to update you, at our next regular meeting next week, we will be looking at some land acquisition situations. So I'm not at liberty to go into any particulars right now, but that is something that we'll be discussing. We'll also be looking at some of our annual contracts that come up that are due October 1st. For your approval, it should be pretty much normal items that we have, our IT costs and all, and we have been, mostly to the credit of our chief, been working with the county and with the sheriff's office for IT services, and that's, I've worked in several jurisdictions, and our expenditures for IT are extremely low. So we're definitely getting a bargain by that partnership, and so my hat's off to the chief for the work that she's done through the years for that. So we'll be having some of those housekeeping items on the next agenda for our meeting, and you'll have to be patient with us a little bit because some of it is routine stuff, but it's definitely important, and I like to stay ahead of it. Those items that we'll be bringing up in the future too, I'm a stickler for my authorization, and that's up to 10,000. So anything else that we're doing, I want to make sure that you're aware of. And obviously the capital projects that we're moving through, but I still want to make sure that you all are aware of those expenses. So I'm doing my part to communicate and be transparent, not only to the commission, but to the residents.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comments? And I guess we maybe want to talk a little bit about, some of the items that came up during the public comment and how we want to address those. I don't know if you folks have an opinion on my. I heard a bunch of different issues here, and I'd sure like to see those get identified in some kind of I'm a list kind of person. I need a list. So I can work off a list and make sure that the town engineer is aware of each of those items, and then maybe we can direct Mr. Daniels to get that list prepared and get with Mr. Capra and get a report on the next meeting. I don't think we necessarily want to go through the details of the resolution or try to resolve those issues here, because we've tried that before, and that never works out well.
Right.
So I don't know what the rest of you think. Commissioner Fender?
Well, I like your idea about a list. I think Mr. Weber gave us a good list here, and I guess I would like to just make sure the town engineer is aware of the items on the list and what our plan is for Phase 1 finalization.
Mayor, if I may, I've already had a meeting with one of our residents, and I plan on meeting with everyone, and I'm looking for a list that we can compile and go through. Some of the things we might be able to address, some of them we might not be able to, but at least we don't know until we know what that list is. I've already had communications with Joe, even though he was out of town. We were communicating through email, and we are looking at some of those issues that are more aesthetic type issues that maybe we can address ourselves without having to go out to a contractor and spend other dollars that in reference to a situation.
Well, I know moving those electrical panels, somebody's going to have a heart attack when they talk about moving those panels. That's not going to be cheap.
No, and that's probably something that might be, the cost of that might be too prohibitive right at this juncture. That pad that is there is my understanding, and I could be incorrect, and that's the pad if we needed to bring in a generator to control everything. Should we be out of service from a hurricane or something to keep the pumps working and everything else? So that's why that pad and the electrical panels are there. Can we do, right, can we do something to enhance that for the time being? That's something I'd be more than happy to look at and see what we can do.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes, I feel like it should be a fairly easy answer. Who does own that island on Mandalay? Does the town own it? Does anyone know offhand? Because I know that in High Point, the island is owned by the High Point Association.
Right. I've asked, and I think Jack has done some research on it. Do you know for sure who owns that?
Jack Sparrow.
By Mrs. Combs.
Good evening, Commissioner. Yeah, Jack Reisinger for the
Not
record.
trying to spot Jack.
Yeah, yeah, I've been looking into it, and nobody will give me a 100% answer. But we also, I've been in contact with two of the owners at the very top of that, who have expressed interest into taking it over and replanting and completely doing it all over. But they're right now in the middle of construction of their houses, so I'm waiting for the finalization of that to get together with them to do something. But it's on the board, our attention to do something with it. We've had Jeff out there lately to clean it up. The weeds were getting pretty high, and some people were dumping some debris on the lot. We did post a sign on that. But yeah, we are addressing it. We're looking into it. We're just trying to figure out who's responsible for it.
And Jack and I were out at the historic brick structure that we have in the middle of the island down towards Mandalay and Sewalls Point Road, South Sewalls Point Road. And so we've already looked at some of the fixtures that are there, the electrical issues, and those are things that we're going to be addressing.
Yeah, we've got a list compiled, we do, with those lights that were out too. That was an FP&L issue that was going back and forth for months. Nobody was actually answering us. We did get finally a resolution the other day. We met with FP&L on the site. There's an issue with some wiring that has to be replaced. That's why one of the lights has been out for so long, almost 8 months actually. But we have a scheduled electrician to run new wires. I think it's next Wednesday. So some of these things we are aware of, we're addressing them, just not that timely. Sorry.
Thank you, Jack. Commissioner Fender?
Yeah, several of the items seem easily resolved, but I'm most troubled by the two that jump out at me is the flooding issue and the aesthetic blocking of the water view issue. So I was surprised to see the flood, the backwater flooding back into the property on the one video. So I don't know if that's the water's not getting into the STA fast enough or what the deal is, but I assume y'all are addressing that significant problem.
Yes, I plan on going out with Jack and taking a look at it from the engineering standpoint to see what options we might be able to deal with. And obviously, everything compiles down from the north to the south, as everybody's aware of. But, maybe there's something we can do to mitigate that now. And then when we do the project up on South River Road, it'll make the issue even better.
Okay.
Vice Mayor Kurzman.
Yeah, as mentioned before, it's important that we get the water issues fixed, but for the two residents, that should be number one on the list. Don't want the individual properties to remain flooded. I know one of the residents even offered to retain some water on the property, but it's very difficult to have as much water as that lady has to suffer through right now. And the other one, just watching the video, is self-explanatory. There's got to be a way to fix that. The other thing is we can maybe use collusions to cover the big metal object that you have to look at. And one of the other complaints I'm getting from a lot of people, other residents as well, is the eyesore that the retention pond has become. We were told, meaning a lot of the residents, we were all in here probably about 4 or 5 years ago, at least 5 years ago now, and Pam Walker saying it's going to look beautiful. You're going to be so proud of that pond. And I'll never forget, those were her words. And I go, I hope you don't have to eat them. And obviously she's not here to do such. But yeah, the pond looks anything but beautiful. It seems like a lot of shortcuts were taken by the contractor. It wasn't up to, they could have used collusions to hide things and then have them trimmed. Nobody's sure who's supposed to do the maintenance. The grass was already up to like 2 feet high before it was finally cut, because there's just too many things. There's a lot of uncertainties, and it shouldn't be like that. This is part of the neighborhood, and we got to be able to go and get this thing fixed as soon as possible. I feel after a while, that we keep hearing the same complaints over and over, and it's, you know, a lot of have been fixed, but we still have the beautification down there. We really need that, and what they did to the pond it's a joke over there. They should put collusions in front of that fence, and that's would be a big deal to a lot of people to not have to look at, because it's really not being maintained properly within.
Are you talking about the STA? Or you said retention area? It was the STA, not the Ridgeview one. Okay.
Both ponds, in other words, even with the one with the big
The one
fence
at
around it.
the one at the end of Mandalay?
It's a shame, because you're going down the road, you see this big, beautiful, empty piece of land with this great landscaping that's been done. All of a sudden, there's our retention pond, and we were told this is going to look nice. Then you go to the next one over by Mandalay. You need to put collusions or something that's just going to grow over it, so you don't have to look at it, and trim it to a certain height. And it doesn't have to be enormous or anything, but just enough to cover up the eyesores that you see there.
Commissioner Campo.
Well, the most important thing is that, I appreciate everyone that's come out tonight, and I appreciate the communication. This is the format to make your voices known, to talk to the staff. We all are trying our hardest, and I think we've accomplished a lot of goals down there, but we need to hear from people, and this is the best way to do it. What I can say is there's some realities here, okay? And you might not like to hear them, but I'm going to tell you them, okay? We're a policy-making board, okay? We don't determine someone's landscaping. We don't determine what kind of lighting is an entrance of a street. We don't do that, okay? We hire staff to carry out some of the details, and we have confidence in those staff. That's just the town charter that we live in, okay? Just like you might not like, a law at the Constitution or, something like that. That's how we have to operate. Now, I will, in turn, put the staff on the spot, because I know that there has been a concern that I've heard several places in several different directions, and that was from a resident who specifically said, and I'm going to ask Joe Capra, and I'm going to ask Dan Hudson, and the accusation has been that our road project that we did made their property more susceptible to flood, that we created the rivers in people's yards, and that we were given a solution, and that didn't come to the commission. So if there was a resident that said that this was the accusation, that we created the problem, and that this was a solution, I'd like to ask, how you address that. And that's how the system is supposed to work. We make policy, we delegate to management, and the management, sometimes they make the popular decision, sometimes an unpopular decision. But we should at least know what the decision is, and we should also know what the response from the engineer that accomplished a tremendous amount. I mean, talk about threading the needle down there. I mean, that road was falling into the freaking river, I mean, literally inches into the river. We live on a peninsula. That's another thing. We live on a peninsula, and there's lots of problems with the tides. So having said all those things, to defend my staff and to defend our position, I would like to put the staff on the spot, and I'd like to ask Dan and Joe, what do you say about the accusation that this project was the cause of damage to people having rivers in their yard versus what it was before? And was there a solution that was presented, and what was the decision that was made with that proposed solution?
Can you, excuse me?
Play Gretchen's video, because I don't think Joe Campo was here. He didn't see that.
He saw it.
Yeah, but the video really shows in detail. Can we play that?
You're a good speech
That earlier
maker.
video that
You're a good
Gretchen
speech
had
maker.
on her property,
It's great.
the water flowing, is that available?
Ma'am, do you want it again?
Excuse me, my pictures that were sent to you in the packet that everyone got was pictures taken big rainfall.
I understand that, and I want to,
So just so you know, I don't
No.
want to be confused.
no, and
Those pictures were not taken at that rainfall. They were taken after the accident on my property, and that's where, what I quoted, what I read to you, and what I sent you.
no, and I appreciate that.
And also for Joe, he did come, and we had a discussion about the sprinklers, right? Colton was out there, I don't know what happened this weekend, but I have a sprinkler problem, and Joe was kind enough to email me back and forth, so.
And that's, I think that's why I want to, I want to direct staff to, Mr. Daniels to
Problem
get
with
with,
this picture right here.
thank you, to get with Mr. Capper and make sure that you've had a chance to talk to, in detail to all the folks that came to the meeting today and
Yes.
the public comment. And please be prepared to give us a detailed update the next meeting. In terms of your request, I don't know what could have been, how it could have been more vague than the way you stated it, but maybe you can give us a little more detail what you were looking
Yeah.
for there.
So there's been an accusation that the work that CapTech oversaw created more flooding to properties. So I'd like to know what your response is. And to the town manager, there's been there's been, comments out there that that there was a solution offered that would have made a resident or residents happy to solve the problem, and they never heard back. And let me just say, before I finish up with that, that the Phil Weber's comment about communication, we're guilty of. We're not set up for the communication that we should be. We just put $20,000 into the budget so we can have more ongoing dialogue. And the last thing that I'd say is, if they're going to have a meeting at Mandalay and have Joe and Jack and the town manager, I would suggest someone open your home up to them, and why don't we have the residents at the conclusion of that and have communication, right at the time, and preferably like 4 o'clock in the next 2 weeks, height of hurricane season, be perfect for you. And, let's bring the communication out to where the problem is, and let's look at it and then make the list. So, Mr. Capra, would you respond to the accusation that I've heard that the project that we did is causing the damage? And then I'd like to ask Dan Hudson, was there a solution presented, and did you make a decision? And if there was, then that's the decision, because we're not the manager. We're policymakers. So that's
Okay, well, I can start, I'm about to say the rest of the story, but maybe I better not start that way. So first of all, if you all recall, I told you the way this system is going to work. And I pointed out to the system right up here in India Lucy. We were doing down there what we did in India Lucy 20 years ago, okay? Basically, and I always have to start by explaining the 3 parts of stormwater management, okay? Basically, we have storage and treatment. Those are one thing. We have conveyance, where we put water in pipes and move it down the road. And then we have discharge, which goes to the river, okay? And we have permits we have to follow, okay? We can't just throw more water into the river, okay? That's number one. Number two, we have a sea level rise, okay? And so we have to hold back that water at certain times. And that's the only way we can get this area to work. I've always explained to people that we are going to raise the road. And if you notice, what I told you is you've got a road drainage system, and it's a street drainage system, and I have a yard drainage system, okay? And both of those are independent, okay, until they get to the outfall. And at the outfall, we have to control discharge and keep the water from the sea level from rising from time to time, which means more water sits on the road or in the stormwater system or on the private properties. That's what happens. That's what happens at India Lucy. It is no different down there than we've been doing for 20 years in India Lucy. We have to hold the water, or we're not going to get the permit. They're not going to let me just blow this water into the river, okay? That's number one. Number two, if you want more, we're putting stuff underground, okay? Underground, okay? In your right-of-way. If you want to do this right, folks, or you want to spend a lot more money, we got to buy a lot of land. You just do not have the land. So I have to do it underground. And what ends up happening, and 9 times out of 10, we are building this system, and I still have to keep people getting to their houses, okay? We're building this system in place, okay? And what happens is I have to keep the system closed because that system is an exfiltration system, and it has slotted drains. During construction, if I open it up, guess what? The sand from the road and from all the surrounding areas goes into that system and clogs it. So a lot of the pictures I've seen, okay, and I'm not saying they're the recent one, because the last one that I saw from Gretchen was one where one system overflowed into the other, okay? That's not a hard fix. What actually we did after that is we did go adjust the control structure into the retention area, okay? And what's happening is water is going into the exfiltration system and filling it up, okay? That's what's happening out there. But it also has an ability to get into the stormwater treatment area that we agree is not the best planted look that you want out there. But guess what? Go look at the berm next door, folks. He did a beautiful job, okay, on that berm. Well, if you're trying to compare a stormwater treatment area to that berm, it's not the same. Can I do things like Calusa Hatch? Sure I can. But guess what? I got to get the Calusa hedge and everything. I know, but I can do the Calusa hedge and hide it and do things like that. And we put a nice fence in there and so forth. But guess what? We have to make a decision. We had a lot of residents that wanted us to fix their landscaping, so we did it, okay? Some of it we didn't have to do, but we felt that was the right thing to do. We probably should have never got in the business of fixing people's irrigation systems. Guess what happens in other municipalities? The irrigation system's out there, and it's in our right-of-way. We're going to take it out. You fix it later with your own people. We didn't do that. We went and fixed it, okay? Now, granted, I know Cindy's is not working, and we're investigating that, okay? And every time she calls or Gretchen calls, we do something, okay? We may not get it totally fixed, but we do something. We're responding to everything. So as far as the island that you're talking about, that was, quite frankly, the lighting and all that stuff were the responsibility of the HOA. But that went away. We ended up taking and using some of the electric there to service the street light, okay? And that's where that ended. I don't know what happened to their lights and so forth, but we did do some fixing on that, okay? We've done that. Just so you know, these street lights, which I didn't say before, the way we work with them, we don't have meters with FP&L, okay? Because that would have cost us a lot of money. What we have is we have a direct line, so they treat us like a cable electric to the cable company. So every one of our lights goes directly to the power poles. It doesn't have a meter for it, okay? That's totally different. But when they were maintaining a light there, which it turns out they hadn't, I don't think that FP&L account was open for a while. And again, I was in and out of it because I didn't do all the CEI work that was out there. They ended up finding out that they basically, that electric FP&L, I think one of the neighbors was providing electric. One of you guys, you were providing electric, not the to the center. I think your line hit, she was providing the electric. It wasn't by FP&L, it wasn't by the town. Basically, they had worked an arrangement where they were taking care of the lighting in that area where the brick area is, okay? I think, quite frankly, it is in our right-of-way, but it's like any other property owners, island and so forth, the property owners associations have been maintaining them. This one they took on, and we've been talking to them about these things. It's not like we're not talking to them, but some of them were not the town's responsibility at first. Some of those things, the last manager said, let's go fix them. So we fixed them, okay? Now, if they're broken again, this is the first I've heard of it. Because that has happened, I know, on Gretchen's lights and so forth. Some of her lights worked, didn't work. I mean, we're working in systems that are old, you know, we don't know the history of them. Sometimes our electrician gets some of them right and some of them he doesn't. He goes back and tries to fix them. We've done that numerous times. Personally, we're going to find out all the problems. We're going to say, okay, we do this, you're going to be happy, and fix it and be done with it. Because, folks, I've been working on this too long. I mean, I got to get on to the next one because you're about ready to lose money if I don't get these other projects built. I got to get them built. So, I mean, I'm not saying that they're not important. I'm just telling you that some of this stuff is brand new. I mean, I hear the word integrity of people's properties. That is not the case. Let me tell you something. I got pictures galore, videos galore of flooding out there. Days at end that we had water sitting on people's properties and in this road. They're not doing that now. It's hours. They're done. Hours it's gone. Now, people got water on their property. There's no doubt about it. But I'm not flooding their houses. That's not happening here.
Thank you for answering my question.
Commissioner Mayfield.
Yes, I want to,
May, you're out of order.
I just want to say that I pass by Phase 1 often because I live past it. And I did it before the construction and after the construction. It is vastly improved in terms of aesthetics all over the place and in terms of flooding. To Joe's point, I don't see the residual flooding that sat for days and days previously. So that has vastly improved. The flooding issue is so difficult. I really feel for the residents. I really do, because that's your home. That is your property. And that one video, it does look, that didn't look good. I feel like that could be fixed. But when that rain comes down hard, I live high up. My front mats are swimming in the water. Like, every property has its issues. And when that rain comes down hard and fast, there's not much you can do, especially, as Joe said, when it has to go through all that piping and sit in certain places. But it drains quickly. So I just think there's some level of, this is what it is. What can I, as a property owner, do to help myself? And I think the town would be willing to, work with y'all. But certain issues, like I said, that one video, it looked like the drain wasn't working, but Joe said he fixed it. That one didn't look good. But we got to keep this all in perspective. That is like the lowest place. That is like where it all just kind of sits. And it was going into the river, and it did sit there for days and days. So I just want to give, everybody some credit. We've come a long way, and we can work this out. But yes, let's keep going with the other projects, and there's my spiel.
Commissioner Fender?
Thanks for that. First off, I also agree that I'm happy with the project. I just specifically, as an engineer, had a question about the video I saw where the water was flowing in two different directions. And I wasn't there that day. I don't know what kind of a rain event we had, but it seemed to me, I was curious if maybe the STA was large enough that the water wasn't getting to it. But in the video we saw, the water looked to me like it was flowing into the STA, but at one point it was diverting off and also flowing into the resident's property. I don't know whose problem that is, but it seems fixable, and I assume maybe you've already seen this or looked at it, and I get the impression, by the way, I agree, you're responsive, and we've known each other a long time, and so I believe that if a Sewalls Point resident raises an issue, I know you have the care and faith in this town and the love of the work that you do, that you're going to try to find a way to make it right. So I just want to put that out there. But that said, I'm interested, just as someone who lives near there, if that water redirection problem is being addressed either by us or by the homeowner, just because it looked solvable to me, whether it would be by a pump or by gravity.
Vice Mayor Kurzman?
Yeah, I want to apologize to our town engineer if I came across the wrong way. I will say that I do myself retain water on my property for over 2 hours on a heavy rain, and I didn't realize these things were actually being attended to. The project does work, obviously, we all know that. There's nobody in this room that could argue otherwise. There were times just to drive home was an event because I used to have to take River Road because I couldn't get onto Margarita to get to my house. So it's, and I know people that now could drive to High Point without having to take alternate routes. So, it's just a little bit of tweaking. But, the part about the collisions though, Joe, that's something, I think we could definitely do something to make that look better. And it's going along just the way, it's just going to be a better sight for the eyes. And it could make a big difference. They're not expensive. They're like $20 a piece for something that's a half decent size. I got a couple hundred of them on my property. But if we could do that, I think that would make a lot of people very happy. And I appreciate you taking care of the problems that do exist. Thank you.
Commissioner Campo?
I've been let from before, so I'm good.
Okay. So just to kind of summarize, if I can, we'll go back to the beginning, is that you get together with Joe and make sure that we've talked to each one of these people, identify each of the issues, and be able to give us a detailed status of the next meeting?
No, I can't do that. That's impossible. There's just too much stuff
The
that
status, and even the status?
The next meeting is Tuesday.
Okay, all right.
So if you can give me to the last meeting of the month, yes, I can have that for you.
That'll be fine. No,
I just,
we don't want you to lie and tell us to be ready.
Excuse me, I'm getting out of order. This happened on my property now. Not 20 years ago, I've been here a long time. And by the way, Mr. Capper, who I know, his brother renovated my house. Okay? And
Okay.
Mr. Capper knows that also. Mr. Capper knows that you guys, not you guys, but the commissioners before, were supposed to buy a piece of property. I believe you might have been here, maybe Campa was not on there, to fix the water problem down there, and we just pushed it along, not you guys. So now we have this problem. This is a problem in my yard. It doesn't go away in an hour.
Okay, thank you very much. We
No,
understand.
no, I don't think you do, because you keep saying that, like she said, that it disappears. It does not disappear. I have a river, the Nile River, let me quote Brian Mass.
Okay.
So I
You
would
have-
appreciate it if somebody could come to my
I'm sorry.
house.
I'm sorry, ma'am. You have the direction. Let's,
yes, I will get it to you as soon as possible.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Okay, any other comments from the commission?
Completely off topic entirely. Are these closing comments?
Sure.
Planting the seed, pre-COVID, we had almost a 30-year tradition in the town of running the Run for the Pineapple 5K on Memorial Day, end of May. I've been approached by the running community to ask if we can return it to Sewalls Point in the next year. I know that the taxes our police staff a little bit, but it's a wonderful tradition for the town, and certainly it sends a message of fitness and community. So I'm throwing it out there for discussion over the next few meetings.
Commissioner Campo.
I think it's always been a great event for our community, and it shows our youth and vitality.
Exactly.
So I support everything we could do. And there are a lot of people that enjoy our Evans Quarry Bridge. I'm working on a couple projects, and we've just concluded work with the DOT to replace the benches, so it's nice time to go see sunset. We got the benches back, so I'm happy for that. And I appreciate the help from my friends at the Fort Pierce DOT. Just wanted to kind of refresh the commission's memory. I am in the works of putting together a resolution, and I'm working with the chief to support a reduction of the speed limit on the Evans Quarry Bridge, especially as it comes down, touches on Sewalls Point, so that we can lessen the likelihood of fatalities, injuries, and people speeding through the town. And maybe not Tuesday, but maybe at the following meeting, we might be in a position for that resolution. And lastly, just because you had to leave a little bit early, we had talked a long time ago about merging I think the 20th and the 27th meeting, and I will be out of town on the 20th. So if there's a way that I could be at the 27th meeting, I would like to. I know that's an extra meeting, but I would, since you weren't there, I wanted to just bring that out. The budget final meeting, I will be able to look at the comparison that Holly's going to put together. I think we're pretty much on the same page as far as what needs to be done. So that should be a relatively short meeting. And if there's a way we could continue on with the same schedule as we had originally planned, I would like to attend another meeting this month. So I just wanted to include that too.
That's fine with me. Thank you.
Any other comments? If not, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.